All right. So the question is, nope, that's not what I want. Question is 10.2, number 15. Okay. So it asks us to a graph is given in rectangular theta r coordinate system. So if you look at the coordinate system, right, r is along what would be normally the y-axis, and theta is along what normally would be the x-axis. And then we're asked to sketch the corresponding graph in polar coordinates. There's really nothing to this. I mean, you just plot the points. So the one thing that might be throwing you off is that theta down here is given in radians, but you'll notice that these are not multiples of pi. So you kind of have to figure out where those things would be, in your polar coordinate system. So just kind of using my calculator and figuring some stuff out, like pi over 2, for example, is like 1.6. So 2 is obviously, more than that. Pi, on the other hand, would be, 3. So 3.14 or whatever. So 2 is, somewhere kind of in the middle of those things. It's like going to be somewhere in quadrant 2, if you're thinking about this in polar coordinates. So we can start to draw some stuff, I suppose. If I can figure out where I have my paper. Okay, so we've got the first point would be 0, 3. So if I'm thinking, so if I'm thinking of this in polar coordinates, I'm not going to bother drawing the concentric circles. I'm going to say 0, 3 would be right about there. Okay. And then the next kind of obvious point would be 2, negative 1. Okay. Wow, I keep doing that. 2, negative 1. But like we said, pi over 2 is here, and that's like 1.6-ish. Pi is over here, that's like 3 point whatever. So 2 would be like this angle out here, right? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, these are our thetas, for sure. Okay, so 2 is somewhere out here, and then we're at 2, negative 1, right? 2, negative 1, so r is negative 1. So that means at this angle-ish, we're actually going to be out at negative 1. So, right about here or so. Okay, and then, we can just continue to do this. Just continue plotting points. So by the time we get to 4, we're back up at 3. 4, goodness gracious, 3 pi over 2 is approximately 4.7, and pi is, 3.14. So, 4 is like somewhere in between those, but we're going to be at 4, 3. So 4 is going to be like somewhere over here, and we're going to go out 1, 2, 3. And then we've got 6, 7. So again, 3 pi over 2 is like 4.7. 2 pi is 6.2. So, or like 6.2-ish, or actually like 6.3-ish. So 6 is just a little bit shy of our full rotation, and we're going to be up at 7. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know, somewhere out here, I suppose. Okay. And then by the time we get to 8, we're back down to 3. Now, what would 8 be? Goodness gracious. So 2 pi is like 6.2. We could go up to, so we could go up to 5 pi over 2 and figure out about how much that is. 5 pi over 2 is about 7.8. So 8 is going to be a little bit more than that. And by that point, we're going to be back down to 3. So 8, 1, 2, 3, you know, something around there, I suppose. Anyway, but then also, if we just look at the graph, so the value of r is decreasing and decreasing until we hit, you know, this value right here, which, goodness, I mean, that looks pretty close to like pi. It seems like by the time we get to, or sorry, pi over 2, right? Pi over 2 being about 1.5-ish, 1.6 or something. That looks to be about, you know, 1.6 or so. So I'm going to guess that at some place around pi over 2, we end up at r equals 0. And so if I'm starting at this point, and then by the time I get to pi over 2, I'm here, and then this is the next point that I go to, right? I can kind of guess that the first portion of this looks something like that. And what else happens? I mean, we eventually get up to 4, 3, right? So r gradually increases, but again, it's 0 somewhere between 2 and 4, maybe just a little bit shy of pi, but the r values are all negative in between, and so you know, from this point until I get to, you know, pi, around pi-ish, I'm like back at 0 or so. I mean, this is kind of a funky graph for sure, but I'm thinking it's looking something like that, and then I go out and grab this point, right? Okay. Things continue to increase until we get up to, you know, 6, 7, which was this point out here. So my r values are just going to continue to get larger and larger and larger until I hit that point. And then they start to decrease again, but I never pass through 0, right? I'm never passing through 0 again. And so I come back over to that point. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, what's going on. That's all we really know. I suppose this thing is going to continue kind of oscillating in this sort of pattern. We could kind of guess like what its period is going to be, you know. So we're going to get down to -1 again, probably by the time we hit 10. 10 though, man. So 3 pi is like 9.4. Man, this thing is a mess, isn't it? I wonder what the answers say this thing looks like. Because I was going to say, it's almost like, because these input values are not, because these angle values are not multiples of pi, this isn't like, it's not sort of repeating itself the way that you would normally expect it to. Instead, I'm getting this really weird thing, because it's going to come back to -1 by the time you get to, you know, 10-ish, which might be like somewhere over just past 3 pi. So I don't know, maybe you get like this point. You know, maybe you end up with something kind of, I don't know, something like that. And it's going to stay negative again for a while. How long would it stay negative? Not for very long. So maybe from like 10, or actually it crosses through. Actually, it probably crosses through right at about 3 pi, and then goes to negative by the time it gets to 10, and then it becomes positive again. Or it becomes 0 again sometime around, I would guess, 3 pi over 2, or not 3 pi over 2, but 7 pi over 2, right? And then the r values would be positive, but I don't know if it like does this before it starts to cycle back around. I don't know. This is a crazy looking thing. Let's see. What did the answers say? So this was 10 point. right? 10.2, number 15. Let's check it out. Oh goodness, 10.2. Number 15 is here. Oh, they just kind of stop wherever the thing leaves off. And it looks kind of like what we drew. I mean, if you ignore the extra bits, because I kept going. But yeah, we drew this little part. And then did that little curly Q and came up and back around. Of course, their picture's nicer. But yeah, I mean, I don't see this thing repeating nicely, at least not right away. But anyway, so that's that one. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's other like analysis you could do on this. You know, you could look at. Let me go back to it. You can I don't know. You can maybe look at like where it's going to have horizontal asymptotes, where it's going to have vertical asymptotes, and things like that, and get a slightly nicer picture. But ultimately, it's just a question of plotting points, like we did. So so that's that one.